Mark Dahlquist began his official duties as mayor of Pocatello in January of 2026. Looks forward to serving the citizens of Pocatello in this capacity. From '07 to 2025, he served as the chief executive officer of NeighborWorks Pocatello. Prior to this, he worked in various leadership management roles at Farmers. That's where I first met him, when he was in the Farmers world, for 17 years. Born and raised in Pocatello, he holds a BBA from Idaho State University with a degree in business management. If you didn't know this, all three of these guys went to Idaho State University. Pretty cool. Now I lost myself. In 2022, he completed the NeighborWorks Achieving Excellence Leadership Program through the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. Over the course of his career, he's received several accolades and awards, including the 2018 recipient of the Idaho State Journal's Business Achievement Award for Outstanding Nonprofit Business Leader, and was the recipient of the Distinguished Citizen Award from the Pocatello-Chubbuck Chamber of Commerce in 2020. He also received an award for Management Excellence back in the Farmers' Day, just prior to leaving Farmers in 2007. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Dahlquist.
Right, thank you very much, Matt. It's really a pleasure to be here. And we talked about the 3 ISU graduates. I can't help but say this or embellish this, but how about those Bengals last night? What is that, like 17 of the last 19 games against them that the dreaded Vandals that we've won. So sorry if there's any Idaho fans in here, but can't resist. Just a couple of brief introductions before I get started. We have 4 of the 6 Pocatello City Council members here today. I'm going to mention all the names, and if you could just stand up and we'll do the applause at the end. But we do have here Council President Corey Mangum, Councilman Dakota Bates, Councilwoman Ann Swanson, and Councilwoman Stacy Satterfield. So round of applause. And the other 2 council members, Brent Nichols and, gosh, it's like, here, I'm new, I can't remember like the last one. Okay, Hayden Paulson, how can I forget that? I'm sorry. But they are both under the weather today and could not make it. Shout out to the staff at the mayor's office. Ann Nichols is the chief of staff there. Connie Kendall is the city clerk. Shawnee Satterfield Farron and Aubrianda Resendez are the deputy city clerks. And we have Marlise Irby, the public information officer. So stand up real quick, we want to acknowledge you. And then of course my mom Bonnie is here, and my niece Jen, and my nephew James. So hello, thank you, got to introduce family. Many other folks are here, including staff members from the city of Pocatello. I'm really rotten when I start introducing everyone. I always forget some names and faces. So lots of city staff here. It's really wonderful to see everyone. I've been active in the chamber for quite some time, and a lot of you are my friends, and there's city leaders here, and you make really you're the shakers and the movers of the community. So thank you very much. It's just a pleasure to be here. Matt went into my background a little bit. I did work at Farmers Insurance for about 17 years, and then NeighborWorks Pocatello for the last 19 years. And I really appreciate that, both the corporate world background and the nonprofit community development background. I think that lends itself well. I've got a lot to learn. There's lots. I've been drinking from the fire hose, but that background that I have, I think that bodes well for this transition into the mayor role. I really love Pocatello. That a lot of you that know me, I'm born and raised in Pocatello, ISU graduate, as Matt said. One of my early memories is that we would load up in the station wagon, and my mom can relate to this, but all 6 of us kids and mom and dad were in the station wagon, and we took a lot of trips to Wyoming and came back from there a lot. And the first thing I remember coming into Pocatello, my sisters would start a song that would say, "Pocatello, here we come," right back where we started from. And then we would go to the top of that hill before you hit the Clark Street exit. And all of a sudden this beautiful valley, mountain valley would open up. And I just remember as a kid, really just being in awe in Pocatello and always really loving the community. And my dad worked at ISU and he helped with some economic development and was real proud of the city as well and would bring many visitors here. So I've always had just a deep passion for Pocatello, and I've served in different capacities. I've had the privilege of being on many chamber committees, Portneuf Valley Partners, the Homeless and Housing Coalition, and others. And moving up to the mayor role, I really truly feel like that there's no higher form of service for the city than to be the CEO at City Hall. So this is a dream come true, and it's really an important job that I'm humbled and honored to do this, that just be at that high level where I can make Pocatello succeed. So I'm just unbelievably excited and proud to serve in this role. Just to start out with a few things that Commissioner Huff and Mayor Birch mentioned this. I am excited about the partnership and the progress that we can make with Chubbuck and Bannock County, because really the Portneuf Valley is kind of one community. And I've met with both Commissioner Huff and Mayor Birch before I even got into office, and we've had some good discussions, and I really look forward with this. I think there's a new transition for a new mayor of both cities, and I'm excited where we can go, and I think we both have that same concept, or all three of us have that concept that we coordinate together. A little bit about my vision, and not to be repetitive, for when I was running for office after those 2 grueling campaign cycles, and then the city council passes this ordinance that there's not a second election next time, so wish you would have done it before mine. So, but nevertheless, it was a good learning opportunity. I met a lot of people out there. You really get outside of your bubble when you're campaigning and talk to people that you normally don't speak with. And one thing I found out, a common theme, is that there really is a sense of passion for this community, and people out there really care. I was really taken back by how educated the public is and how much they want to move Pocatello and our area forward. So it was really a great opportunity to get out there and listen to the viewpoints of everyone. One of the big things on people's mind is the economic development and growing our tax base. That's certainly a big priority for myself and for everyone at the city and the city council. A couple of things: that LA Semiconductor, that plant, as you know, is for sale, and it's under receivership right now. I've had a tour of the plant, and I've met with the officials there, including their third-party entity that's helping run and helping with the sale. Mia K. Kennedy from Portneuf Valley Development has been there as well at the table. But that's kind of the first low-hanging fruit that we have to make sure. We have to make sure and get that plant fully occupied, and there's many pieces of the puzzle. The city can't do everything, but we can be at the table and we can get to know the players and find out what's going on and offer our services and our support and our relationships to get that plant sold and fully occupied. Right now there's 350 people that work there, but at one time there were over 1,200 folks that worked at the semiconductor plant. So those are the types of jobs we really need, the high paying, the technical jobs. So first and foremost, I'm trying to dig in as much as I can with that, so we're successful there. I've had some other great conversations with Portneuf Valley Development, and I know they're very busy. They took a trip to Taiwan. Mia Kate and Commissioner Huff just came back from Taiwan about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So they're out there going around the world, to make things happen for our local economy. But really bringing and Northgate as well. The Northgate development is very important. I met with a group, they call themselves the Cadres, and there's, Arlo Luke and Gene Hodge and some other players there. And they've been meeting for the last 9 or 10 years on ideas and ways to get Northgate development really up and running. I talked to Buck Swanee before I came into office. He's one of the key developers for Northgate, and you're gonna see some movement up there. I was pleased with what I heard. It's probably gonna start with some type of housing development there. More things to come after that, but I was pleased to hear that that development's gonna take off more and more at Northgate. We've got a brand new great interchange there, transportation corridor that Pocatello is, so we've got to do as much as we can to get that developed there. Part of what I've talked about with the economic development, I've used the phrase make Pocatello shine and compete. And I think I'm glad that Mayor Birch touched on this. We need to really do everything we can to make our community look good, great first impressions for visitors. I think a lot of us that live here, we kind of get used to how the community looks and we get blinders in our eyes, and I like to drive around with the mindset that maybe I'm new, first time coming into the community. And there are a lot of different things that you notice that we need to work on. Pocatello sits in a beautiful valley. We're blessed with great terrain and recreation around us, but improving our curb appeal is something that's very important to me. And that's coming from someone that's helped organize the citywide spring cleanup for the last 30 years with the beautification committee that Donna has taken over. A couple of visions that I have, there's many, but for example, Clark Street, that's one of our main corridors coming into town. And when you first take that exit, what I notice is all those retention ponds and the weeds growing and kind of that wild look there. There are some landscape improvements that have happened there, but would love to or have the vision of driving into Pocatello, for example, from the Clark Street exit, and you've got great landscaping at the city entrance that looks very welcoming. And then going down Clark Street, wouldn't it be great if that road had the same look and feel as the streetscape in historic downtown? We're gonna have a newly renovated underpass soon. I know it's been a long time coming, but just for example, that's a vision that I have, make a really great clean corridor. The city of Chubbuck, we all know about the New Day Parkway, beautifully landscaped. Rodney was the public works director and really helped make that happen. We don't want to go into the Pocatello side and say, well, what just happened? We've got to have, these things are all expensive, and I know, and everything takes money, but those are the kinds of things that we need to work on. Even that fence across from City Hall along Pocatello Avenue where the railroad is. Now that I'm at City Hall and have to look at that every day, it's even a little bit more of a pet peeve. So let's do some things that make Pocatello shine and compete. I've also learned how important trails and recreation are to people here. There was a survey that was done, or there's the Parks and Recreation Open Space and Trails Plan. That's a study that was just recently completed. And when I looked that over, I couldn't believe how many people felt the importance of connected trails there and how many people use our trail systems every year. And we are becoming more and more connected, but we need to keep doing that. And Pocatello needs to build on its strengths, and I think one of the strengths we have is recreation. We truly are a mountain town that's sort of still affordable, and I think we need to play on that and promote and improve our trail system and get the word out there that Pocatello has all this, so we can get as many visitors and economic development as possible. And when I read through that Parks and Recreation Open Space Trails Plan, one big thing that came out there was the maintenance of everything, both the maintenance of the trails and maintenance of our park system in Pocatello. More attention needs to be paid with that. Portneuf Valley, or I should say the Portneuf Health Trust, I've had some good conversations with Sean there for some partnerships on maybe how we can better maintain the trail system. But it was funny looking at that survey, how many people even mentioned the restrooms and parks and how, 1970s era or whatever those are there. And so little things like that, I don't think the city has maybe paid attention or had the resources or shifted resources to help maintain our parks and our trails and really get those elevated to where we want to be. Speaking of economic development, historic downtown Pocatello, that's really a gem that we have in the community that we should be proud of. We have a national historic district right in our backyard, and we need to capitalize on that. And I know the Center Street underpass is a nuisance there. We'll get past that, and I'll give you a little update in a minute. But historic downtown, there's been a lot of good things that have happened, that are good catalysts for the future. Lookout Park, Lookout Point is beautiful. We've got places like the Purpose Building. Craig has done such a wonderful job upgrading that. Jen and Rory Urchel have done a great thing. I'm missing many people there. Good things are happening in historic downtown, and the amount of restaurants and amenities that we have there is improving, but we need to keep growing that and make that just the proud gem of the community that it needs to be. One thing I've always thought of, and I've talked about this a bit, is that historic downtown really needs a hotel. That we live in a valley with like 75,000 plus people, and we don't even have a downtown hotel. There's tools out there that we can take advantage of. New market tax credits, for example, is something I think we need to take advantage of, and I've talked about this. And I used to be on a board for Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming for new market tax credits. And I was seeing a lot of communities out there, even smaller than us, getting downtown hotels. And if you take advantage of the new market tax credits, you can get like 20% subsidy to make those happen. So let's take advantage of those tools that are out there. The second thing, really quickly, I've talked a lot about attainable housing. And by attainable housing, I don't necessarily mean we go build all these low-income apartment subsidized complexes, although those are extremely important, like the places like Park Meadows out on South 5th Avenue that NeighborWorks helped put together. That's beautiful. We need more of that in the mix as well, but simply looking at housing attainability, supply and demand, simple economics. I know the city can't control interest rates, we can't control the cost of building materials, but we can do everything we can with our zoning to make it friendly. If we need more dense development in certain older neighborhoods, I don't think that's a bad thing. Whatever we can do to get like a liaison at city office, that one person you can turn to, that's your help desk, that can guide you through the process of a new subdivision or development. The city staff and the directors that I've met that I'm so proud of, they do everything they can to really help out the community. But that coordination, I think we need to get a little better with that. So things like zoning, moving things quickly through the plant, through the whole process with the city. I think the city can help identify those infill lots that Rodney has talked about and make that as friendly as possible for development, because he's absolutely right. The roads are already there, they're getting plowed, the sewer and the water lines are in place, so Pocatello's in a constrained valley, so we need to take advantage of infill development as much as we can. Then there's other things like, the open book city hall and being fiscally responsible. The new CFO, Rich Morgan, we've had some good discussions about how we can make some of those things more user-friendly. I think on the city council agenda, rather than having the treasurer's report on the consent agenda, that we need to have a little bit more detail there and speak of that a little bit more in the public. Dashboards are things that work really well, because the multi-million-dollar budget that Pocatello has, it's pretty confusing, but if we can have a 1 or 2 page document that really tells us month by month where we're at, that would be a good thing, and I think the public would be pleased. As far as Open Book City Hall, like a couple of tweaks that have happened so far. At the city council meetings, the public comment period, that actually went away for a while when you wanted to make just a miscellaneous comment about anything that's on your mind. That was taken away for a while, but it was brought back, and when it was brought back, that was put on the very end of the agenda. And if you had a 2-hour-long city council meeting, you had to wait for that amount of time before you could get up there and speak. And so we just moved that starting last night to the front of the agenda, you know, after the Pledge of Allegiance and the roll call and that. But those are just kind of little things that we can do. And, you know, the highest level of involvement that I can get from the city council, I'm trying to just put that pressure on them that, you know, whatever the 6 council members, including Councilman Paulson, can get up there and do for us, because I forgot his name at first, but, you know, getting up there and being involved. And I think the new council members have a very good acumen for the budget, and I'm really pleased with some of the topics that they've brought up and what they're willing to do and come to the table. So we've got, with the city budget for the coming fiscal year for FY26, our insurance premium is projected to go up like 25 to 30%, our health insurance premium. And so it went up a little bit, it went up like 5 or 10% this year, but it's really taking a price increase for the coming year. So that's a dilemma that we're gonna have to figure out and just look at that really sharply. We do have a $9 million reserve, which is really great, but we need to avoid dipping into that reserve just to run year-by-year operations. I've only been in the job for 7 days, so but just a quick, you know, a few quick updates that I've learned about that I'm excited about. Chief Shai and I have had some good, fruitful conversations about, you know, kind of more public facing, or, you know, kind of whatever the right terminology is, that getting more public involvement and getting the good trust that we have. We have an awesome police department, and I don't know if the public really knows everything that we do, but that said, we're continually looking at process improvements. And one thing I'm excited about is we'll be rolling out a new app in February, most likely, that's called the Know Me app, or you can go on the website as well. Kind of long story short, it's a registry where if you have a vulnerable individual in your household that's like autistic, special needs, just any kind of a vulnerable issue that the police department needs to know about, there will be a registration system where you can go in and fill out everything about this individual. You know, for example, they go next door and they raid the refrigerator and make sandwiches, and they're nonverbal and things like that, that when a police officer arrives, that they understand that. And there will be a picture, there will be a process where someone will call them and renew the information every year. So it's just a good way for first responders to know that household really well and be educated. You know, there's also the Citizens Police Academy that we've talked about, of elevating that and getting more people in the know. We have talked about having a citizens task force that can help us out with, you know, kind of maybe there's this issue out in the community, let's look at this, or there's this program out there that's a good training tool or helps establish confidence with the community. So we need to get the public involved and get your perspectives on where we need to go with that. Center Street underpass, that's a nuisance that's under construction, but it will be a great amenity for the city when that's finished. One thing I am pleased about is that the underpass is only going to be closed for 6 weeks for this first round. And then after that, for several weeks, it will be open one way, and there will be traffic signals on each side of the underpass. And kudos to the Public Works Department for figuring that out, that's so important for the community. And I think it's in May that we'll have one more round, May or June or something, one more round where it will be closed for 6 weeks to do some work on the walls on the other side. and then it will be open, you know, at least to the one-way traffic until probably November-ish when it's completely finished. We have all the clearance from the railroad. It's in writing. We've got the letters, so don't foresee that like having to back off on the work. New clubhouse at Riverside Golf Course. You know, some new traffic signals that we're looking at, the you know, out of South Valley Road, that we're working hard at South Valley and Bannock Highway to get something going there. El Rancho and Highline, and there's one more I'm not thinking of. But traffic signals are real important. Sidewalk grants are happening. I won't go into detail, but last night we passed a resolution and we got some grant money that we're gonna start about $350,000 worth of sidewalk repair work in the downtown area. Our roads are in good condition. I think, you know, there's always improvements that can be made, but trust me, out walking around when I was campaigning and walking on some of our scaries, cracked, buckling sidewalks. Sidewalks are a big issue with people, and we've got to figure that out there, so more to come. Last little update before I close is with the Pocatello Regional Airport. There will be a second flight that starts on the 7th of May. I know that's not perfect for our service, but it's an improvement to at least have that second flight. There will be 50 seats on these jets rather than 70, so it will take one less flight attendant, be a little bit more cost effective for SkyWest. We want to get some more. We need that early morning flight back. On May 7th, the early flight will be 11 a.m. That's better than what it is right now, but we need to still keep working on that. But my plea to you is fly Pocatello, fly Pocatello. We need that airport, and if we're trying to grow our economic development, we need to use that. And the schedule will get a little bit better on May 7th, so just encourage you whenever possible to use the Pocatello Regional Airport. Just in closing, I know this, like, I'm going over time. Again, it's just my absolute pleasure to be the mayor. It's like a dream. I still kind of wake up and pinch myself when someone calls me Mr. Mayor, and I'm just, you know, just a second there, it doesn't sound right. But Pocatello really has the very best people, and being involved in different community entities, I see that firsthand. And I think one of our slogans should be that we're the volunteer capital of America, because there's so many people out there that care. But with that plea, and maybe I'm talking to the choir since many of you are business leaders and already do this, but Pocatello, the city leaders, the council members, myself, the city employees, you have our absolute pledge that we will roll up our sleeves and do everything within our ability to make this city better. But we can't do everything on our own. We need the citizens' involvement to make Pocatello go to the next level. And so even if it's just something like volunteering for a service group for 3 hours every month, helping your neighbors, shoveling your neighbor's sidewalk, being involved in a city committee, that I just plead to you that you do that, and you just remember that, you know, you have a hardworking leadership group, but we cannot do everything. We need your help. We need to be more proud of Pocatello. We need to be cheerleaders. Everything we can do to talk up and uplift this community, even with our attitude, and not hang our heads. I'm convinced that we're in the best city in Idaho, the best place we can be. I just don't think all of us believe that. And so get your cheerleader cap on. I feel like going through this, I'm gonna have to maybe go into minister school or something to be a good evangelizer so I can pump up the community. But that's just, our attitudes are just hugely important, including the service attitude. But in closing, I'm feeling really good about the culture, the vibe, the positive direction the city is going, and where we're headed. So it's a great new revival and chapter for Pocatello and our valley. I'm just going to love the ride for the next 4 years. Thank you.